Very good. Well, morena, ngā haere mai. Welcome to our Wānaka Community Board meeting, and it's the 27th of March, and it's good to be back in Lake Hawea today. Yes, yeah, that's cool. Is it too late to ask you to karakia? I'm going to do a karakia today.
Have you got one?
I have got a karakia. Unless you'd like to do a karakia.
Yeah. I've got one, I believe.
You do? I'd like to do a
I can go
karakia.
if you want a karakia. No trouble.
That's fantastic.
Linda's sort it, look.
Well, actually, we've got Megan. I'd love to hear. And then I was happy to do one. And Megan is going to do the karakia. Thank you, Megan.
E te atua, kia pai te haerenga o tēnei rā. Me o mato mahi hoki ame.
Kia ora. Thank you very much for starting off us with a karakia.
That
Welcome.
does include the words, may the day go well.
Yes. Yes, and community board meetings always go well, but thank you for reaffirming that. Welcome to, I'm not sure we've got any members of the public, we've got a lot of members of staff, so lovely to see you all here as well. And Rowan, welcome to your first community board meeting, and Sue, thanks for coming from the Wānaka-Upper and reporting on matters today. Megan is our General Manager of Corporate Services for QLDC, and she's our ELT attendee today, so thank you for that. John, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. John's joining us, Community Board member John Wellington online today. Quentin, as we all know, is not part of the Community Board, but is an integral part of some of the discussions we have around the board table. There is recording in progress, so just letting everyone know that the meeting will be on the website, QLD's website later today. Cody Tucker has put in an apology today, so I am just going to check to see if we've got, so we normally do apologies and leave requests, don't we, at the same time? Okay, so Cody's an apology. Have we got any leave requests from elected members over the next 6 weeks? Lau.
20th to the 24th of May.
And Linda.
15th to the 26th of April.
15th to 26th of April. Barry.
21st of June to the 9th of May.
21st of June to the 9th of May.
Oh, sorry,
No,
21st of April.
Are you going back in time?
Yeah.
You might want to market that, you might get back some money.
I need a break.
You need a break. You do need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get that date for Barry, going back in time? Anyone else?
Yeah, the 16th to the 22nd of April.
16th and 22nd of April. Thank you, John. Okay, so I will move a resolution that Cody's apology be accepted. Anyone like to second that? Chris, all those in favour?
Aye.
All against? So we carried that. Very good. Okay. Any conflicts of interest for anyone for matters arising from the agenda today? No, so we'll move on from that. There are no matters lying on the table, and the public forum, there's no one that's physically attending today, but Heather Clay was going to attend, but she has asked for a statement to be read out in her absentia, and Matthew, you're going to do that for her.
Yep. So on behalf of Heather Clay, thank you for this opportunity to again highlight this particular need, and sorry I cannot attend due to work or patient care, which has to come first. As pointed out several times before, Wānaka needs some pedestrian crossings. Every other town has them in New Zealand and in the QLDC zone. Zebra crossings or our red light are the only international symbols that make traffic stops in favour of the pedestrian. Shared pathways, raised speed bumps and traffic islands are not safe enough for this population. I have everyone in mind, but those living with disability relating to cognitive and or sensory impairment, the very young and the elderly are my focus. It is a basic human need and right. This is needed on McDougall Street near the hub, the traffic islands are there, Brownston Street, ideally Helwick Street and the lakefront on Ardmore Street. You need to consult the likes of me on these disability access issues, especially where cognitive, sensory and age-related issues are at hand. I have a very long history of living with disability and as a clinician in the same field. There is no excuse, otherwise it's active discrimination in Wānaka and it's urgent, not 10 years away.
Thank you. And Heather has been very consistent over the years in continuing to advocate strongly for those crossing points and for us to be cognizant of those with disabilities when we are planning and designing those. Ken, could I just get you to close that door for us, please, just for noise and a little bit of water?
But we need to leave it open for
Yeah,
the
actually, right.
public.
The public.
Oh, really?
Sorry.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, team. Not up with standing orders to that degree. Confirmation of the agenda. Has anyone got any changes that they request for the agenda? Okay, well then I will then move that the agenda be confirmed without addition or alteration. Anyone like to second that? Thank you, Lyle. All those in favour? Anyone against? Carried. Very good. So just continuing through with the pro forma stuff, and that is the confirmation of the minutes from the community board meeting that we held on the 20th of February. That was at the Lake Wānaka Centre. Has anyone got any amendments or any things to raise around the minutes from last meeting? Read through them, I'm happy. Everyone else happy? Well, continuing on the slide, I will move that the minutes of the 20th of February community board meeting be confirmed as true and correct, and without alteration. Would anyone like to second that? Linda, thank you, Linda. All those in favour? Carried. Wonderful. Well done. Well, it's a big day today as we move into the substantive part of the agenda, and that's because we are celebrating the recommendation to adopt the Mount Iron Reserve Management Plan. So, who from the team is going to come and join us? Christine. Great. Okay. Great.
Good morning.
Morning, Christine.
We're very pleased to get to this point and very grateful for the input from the board, from the Okaha and Tammy representing local Wānaka and making sure it's infused with a flavour that has their view, and of course the hundreds of submitters who read the draft and gave us a submission. As per the report, biking on the reserve was the hottest point, along with access, and the policies do try to manage the concerns around safety and the ecology. Just like to note that the vesting process is still underway with DOC, which is in the report, and there are a few edits in the attachment A, the final report. None of them meaningfully change anything in the report, except the two that I'll draw your attention to. 6.7.2 is meant to be divided into two policies, one sentence for each policy, and that's the same with 6.7.10 is meant to be split into two. But otherwise the report can be taken as read.
Well, at risk of having a mutual admiration society, I was going to start by saying you guys deserve a huge medal for just the tenacity, the patience, what could have been a very fractured community consultation, but you've done it with absolute aplomb. So, well done, Christine. You've got that really nice balance between listening and receiving, but then being firm when you need to. And so we really respect that, because otherwise, if it was a jellyfish running this, we would never be anywhere near where we've got to now. So I think you've got that lovely balance. I think it was amazing that we had about 800 or so pin drops right at the start of the process. We had loads of people come along and drop in. We had 400 or so submissions. Amazing community engagement that really reflects just how, two things, it reflects how cherished Mount Iron is for the community, and it also reflects just how engaged residents and visitors are with Wānaka as well. I think I'd like to thank the hearing panel, Chris and Barry and Lyle, for the work that they did as well, and making that a very useful process. So it was staff, community, the hearings panel. I'd like to also shout out a thanks to the biking community within Wānaka, because they have been very patient with that and have just sort of abided by council instructions to not to ride on there in the main, and I do appreciate the community there. I know they're gagging to get involved in some way. They've been very patient. So it's an amazing document, and it does set this taonga, this treasure, up for the next number of generations. So it's a really foundational, substantive piece of work, so thank you. So I'll just go around the table for any comments or any observations. Linda, would you like to start?
Yeah, I think it's not just the biking community. I think hearing the rock climbing community was great and sharing their concerns around the trails, and I think it's a fantastic job, well done. And they're fully supportive of this. I think it's great to have on the table and fantastic.
Brendan?
Yeah, thank you. Look, firstly, to recognise the unique and amazing opportunity that we had to buy this piece of land and add it to the public estate. It's something that I hold really dear to the work that we've done as council, and I really am proud that it is part of the public estate. It's not every day that we get to do that, and it's something that's pretty cool. Just wanted to reflect that. First and secondly, that I strongly believe that those people that love and that use the reserve will love and protect it. So enabling those people, the walkers, the climbers, the paragliders, and the bikers to use the reserve will actually ensure its protection and its care, and all those people will contribute to its maintenance and its protection and its enhancement over the years. And so, yeah, strongly believe in that. It's great to see those things like climbing and paragliding and those existing uses acknowledged and sort of formalised, where they've had this sort of uncertainty over many years. So, look, it's great. It does pave the way for. It's been done with a lot of care to ensure that those balances are kept. That we don't want to don't want it to be dominated by any one use. We don't want it to be its values to be compromised, and the community stay at the heart. The natural environment and the community stay at the heart of it. And I think that's an extraordinary thing. So look, it's in general it's great. I've got a couple of minor questions that I'll put. One is, when the conservation land, if that is handed over to council management, does this policy automatically apply, or do we have to sort of go through a process of adopting that into the reserve management plan at the time?
It will automatically apply.
It'll automatically apply.
Yeah, so that we don't need to repeat this process.
And does that also apply to the dock car park at the bottom? So that our ability to manage freedom camping, for instance, in the dock car park will automatically come into play?
It would be managed as reserve.
As reserve. And I've passed a question on through Aaron and through Dave as well, just around the Allenby Place car park as well, as there's a sort of uncertainty around the tenure of that. But I think the intent would ultimately be that that is drawn into the management and managed holistically as well under the plan. And currently it's not, but we can work through that. So yeah, and just to be clear, there was some uncertainty around, and this probably goes to the hearings panel actually, the question. So the decision to remove specific provisions around mountain biking, or a specific policy, can you just speak to that and just give people comfort that the ability to design, develop and build appropriate mountain bike trails is still provided for in the plan?
Well, it is. That's what the paragraph 6.7. What number is it? 6.7.2. And it's going to be two policies there. Enables that. Yeah, the taking out specific paragraph just as we did and put it into there was because all the other uses, the submissions indicated that why we've got a specific paragraph for that and not for all the others. it's been incorporated into the whole trail policy side of it.
So it's more a rewording and restructuring rather than a removal of a,
Yeah, it's just
a disablement of anything.
just to avoid criticism.
One activity
activity's got a higher priority for sort of how
preferably.
it's all treated the same when we're doing the development and how it impacts on other users.
Thank you. That's all.
Chris?
I really have just one comment, and that was there were so many groups that were advocating for their part of what they wanted Mount Iron to provide them. And in the end, despite those disparate types of enjoyment that they wanted, everyone really had the same idea and values that they wanted put on it, and that was they wanted Mount Iron Reserve to be available to everyone to do as much as possible in terms of biking and paragliding and sitting quietly and contemplating. And I think it was the nicest part of the whole process was that actually as we worked through it, everybody effectively came together and said, this is a really special place, and if we get a little bit of it for ourselves, then that's what we want, as long as it ultimately is still protected from overuse or commercialism or anything like that. And I think the positivity actually that came out of all of the different groups that we spoke to with regards to the different uses, but still one overarching ideal that they wanted it to be, as we've got it, I believe, something good for everybody. And it was really interesting to see how we managed to pull them all together, and hopefully they'll all be really happy with their slice of the pie, shall we say.
Chris?
From my experience with it, it was great to have those drop-in sessions where we got to meet and talk to people with various interests, medical groups such as the rock climbing group and what have you. It certainly gave me a real insight into the passion and the care that people have for the place, and they want the best for it. I think the huge amount of work that Christine and Kat have put into it has been a great guidance for us on the panel, and in particular Lyle with his experience in wordsmithing when it came to chiselling out the final edition. I think with Lyle's expertise there, it was a great help and guidance to us to get it right. So thank you everybody for your input.
I think the staff, great job you done there. Community had a great input. The day, as Quentin said there, this is a magnificent asset that we've acquired for our community. Having something like this so close to the centre of our town for all these users, the climbers go out in the evenings after work and do a bit of climbing and things. So we are very, very fortunate as a district to have this asset, and I do really commend the work done previously to acquire it. I've really enjoyed being part of the process. I learned a lot about reserve management plans and trying to accommodate the needs or the desires of a whole raft of people. I say it, I guess there will be some out there that are not 100% happy, but I do encourage them to actually just look at the whole community and just appreciate that you may have your personal views, but we've got to accommodate the whole community, and I think we're doing that. So well done everyone, thank you.
Yeah, I think that there's been two stages. One was just the euphoria of actually putting this into public hands when the purchase went through. That was one step, and then this is just, just really advanced that by having, as I said before, a really strong foundation that will guide us. And I think it's really, really well balanced. I'm particularly excited about the opportunity in there for the community to continue in a governance, push that governance concept, all of that sense of involvement and engagement and direction. So it's not like it's all finished now for the community. It's almost like a starting platform for the community to say, as a community, how will we ensure that guardianship of Mount Iron for decades to come? So I think that's going to be our next piece of work around that, is how do we take this and bring it to life with the community government. John?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, council was provided with a unique opportunity to expand and provide this wonderful asset in our community. Certainly the consultation brought out strong views, both for and against various use types. I think the expansion of the size of the reserve will allow for these all to be effectively managed so that they don't build each other. There's a great opportunity here for everyone to get something out of the reserve. And I congratulate the staff on dealing with those strong opinions from different groups and preparing a plan that works, I believe, that works successfully. So well done, sir. And I wholeheartedly support the plan that's proposed. And I echo the side for you to look down to look at how we involve the community more in the governance of the reserve.
Great. Thank you, John. Christine, Kate, anything else you want to add?
I'd like to say something.
Sorry, yes, go ahead.
That's right. Thank you for acknowledging the consultation process. There is a wider team that is involved, of course, which is the comms team, and I'm really pleased to share that we're very proud to have now put together an entry based on the Mount Iron consultation to the Taitora Excellence Awards. So we are, we're really proud of that work, and I think it's been a great collaboration, and thank you all for your approach too. And it is a blessed relief to be talking about something so incredibly positive. And, it is the reason why we come to work. Thank you.
We tried to get one news here, do a breakfast segment on it, but it didn't quite come through. Maybe I'm not photogenic enough to do that. Anything else from the team before we move? Okay. Lyle, since you were the chair of the hearings panel, would you like to move?
Yeah, just a question, Mr. Chairman. With the resolution, do we have to add a little bit to say that we've made minor editorial changes or not? You don't?
Yeah, okay. They can be made ahead of it going to.
And Christine did put a spelling mistake in there deliberately to make sure that we read it through. I'll let you know that spelling mistake, but I didn't want to bring it up in the meeting.
So I'm happy to move the resolution.
Great. So Lyle is moving that the Mount Iron Reserve Management Plan contents of the report be accepted, and that we recommend to Council, because there is one final step, that we are recommending to Council that this be adopted. Why behold Council if it doesn't go through? John, you're seconding that?
Yep.
Very good. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. Well done. Thanks, Steve.
Just to clarify too, although I don't get a vote on it, I fully endorse it.
You get a vote.
Well, you can get a vote each side.
Vote against it.
So that's going to the 17th of April.
Through the chair.
Our job 26. So 17th of April, council meeting. This will be finally confirmed, ratified, adopted. Thank you. John?
John, through the chair, just like to make my apologies on absolutely very, very short.
Fantastic. Thank you, John.
Thank you for allowing me to join so far.
Matthew, welcome. Very good. So item 2 on the agenda is a notification of a right of way and a right to drain water by way of an easement over part of the Wānaka Golf Course Recreation Reserve. So thank you for the report. I've read through. Is there anything else you guys want to add in addition?
Just a couple of short things. So I'm joined by Matt, but Mary, who is our legal person, is also online if we have any questions of that nature.
Yep.
You might be aware of multiple issues around the Yogle Street area, but the purpose of this report is just specifically around the easement. And it's around public notification, so it's not approval of the easement, it's following the Reserves Act from the application that we had from 91, 93 and 99 Yogle Street. And the last thing is to just say, as mentioned in the report, we have been having some ongoing conversations with the Wānaka Golf Club, who hold the lease over the recreation reserve. That is ongoing, and they will also have the opportunity, if you approve this, to input through that public notification and have those issues resolved through that process as well. I'm not happy to take any questions.
Right, yeah. And I think that's really important. This will come back to us, but the decision today is whether to publicly notify this. Who's got some questions or observations or comments, Barry?
Just in terms of that there is other ongoing issues in that area, does does this play a part if it is finally approved and helping resolve some of those?
So I guess the opportunity here, if the easement was approved and those neighbours then actually upgraded the driveway, they would be required to meet code of practice and council requirements. So there's the potential there that could improve some stormwater issues because it would bring the driveway up to code. So there is that opportunity. But obviously that's only one part of a lot of things happening. But we see that this could help that, but not resolve all issues.
Thank you.
Do I have any other questions or observations before we select the hearings panel for this? All good? Okay, so everyone's good. So we're going to notify this. We will be appointing 3 members of the community board to form a hearing panel to hear any submissions, if any are made, and then to make a recommendation to council. John, can you be on this hearing panel?
Yep.
Right. Linda, would you like to be on this hearing panel? Cool. I know that you 3 guys have been on a hearings panel. I know one of the families of one of the Yogle Street addresses, so I'd probably feel a bit uncomfortable being on a hearings panel when there's a family relationship there. I wouldn't say it's a conflict, but I think we'll probably avoid it if possible. So is there anyone else that would like to, I don't think this will be a highly submitted or intensive thing, so does anyone else? Yeah, Barry. Thank you, Barry. So I will then move that we note the contents of this report. We approve the intention to notify the right-of-way and the ability to drain water easement, and that the community board hearings panel will consist of John, Linda and Barry. Would anyone like to second that? Thank you, Chris. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. Very good. Thanks, team. We'll look forward to that coming back on the agenda in a few months' time. Right. So one of our other roles as the community board is to look at the reserves that are being vested in the Upper Clutha, and these have all been grouped together. We've got 4. We've got 4 reserves under consideration. Dominic, welcome.
Sure.
How are you?
Yeah, thanks.
Very good, thank you. I don't think you were presented in front of the...
No.
Wow.
No, I think I've met most of you individually.
Well,
I'm John, I'm a Parks and Reserves planner.
Great. You can go on your CV now, and the career always sort of tends to peak at the community board, sitting at the table, and then it all goes with pear shape. But hopefully you'll buck that trend. Would you like to add anything to the paper that you've put?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is just around a bit of clarification. 2 of the reserves being local purpose reserves, and then 2 being recreation reserves. And just to clarify that the Reserves Act requires us to classify all reserves, but they are still protected under the Reserves Act. So one of the reserves out of Makarua, the local purpose reserve, that has a historic stone chimney in it.
Yes.
Because it's local purpose reserve access, that doesn't mean the historic aspect isn't protected. And that's also protected under other legislation as well, the Geodetic Act and things. But other than that.
Very good. Well, it's really interesting. There's a spread out across the whole district, the whole ward. And I think it's particularly helpful you read through these, and when you see the map, you can sort of put into context. I was actually up at Makarora doing summer days recently, and they were actually asking about pedestrian access and people about to walk and bike to the school from the new residents there, and then so this sort of answered the question. Not everyone was aware of that, so I think it's really helpful. Who's got some questions or observations around these reserves being vested? I think we'll probably do them as a group unless there's anything really contentious. Oh, what would you like to?
Just a bit of clarification. The Cadrona Reserve, just to remind me, so the wastewater down the bottom part of that stays there, is that right? That infrastructure is not going to be removed at any stage?
No, so that's staying there. And the subdivision essentially separates that infrastructure from the rest of the land, and because it's a really big land parcel there, it allows the rest of it to become a recreation reserve and to be used by the community for that purpose. but the infrastructure remains.
Okay, so with the local recreation purpose, I think it's called,
That one's just recreation reserve.
so does that enable camping like the Luggett Reserve allows camping? Because one of the things talked about was whether the community association up there would maybe get some revenue from camping on that side.
On that side, yeah. So the Reserves Act doesn't allow camping, but that's something that would, unless there was a reserve management plan specifically allows for that activity, then it wouldn't be allowed under the Reserves Act.
Are we expecting to be doing a reserve management plan for this reserve?
That was my question.
Yes, I mean, again, under the Reserves Act, we're required to have a reserve management plan for recreation reserves. There can be a bit of a lag time as to when that's prepared, when we have the resources, but at some stage there should be a reserve management plan for this reserve, for the recreation reserves.
So in the meantime, it also applies to some of the other reserves too. Is there any indication of maintenance costs to look after that? It's a very large area, and I guess, obviously the community association would love it, but there's a cost in maintaining to some level.
Yeah.
So I just wonder how has that been assessed or estimated?
It hasn't been estimated, but that would come under the current budgets and our from our contracts team.
Okay. That's all I had on Catriona.
Because some of them, when the developer led, they have a 3-year buffer that they have to maintain, but this particular reserve at Cadrona is going to fall within council's responsibility immediately.
Yeah. So I guess the idea there is that this land is already owned by council anyway. So if it's, the level of maintenance is kind of up to us in a way. And the community at Cadrona has already expressed interest in wanting to improve this reserve as well. So we'd hope to get their buy-in for that.
And do you have a sense of how this might evolve, this chunky piece of land?
Absolutely. So for the last 3 years, been working with the Cadrona community on looking at that space, and they're very excited to know that it's coming to the board today and going to have a reserve management plan. And they'd like to really be engaged through that process, and already, as you know, have got some visionary processes, and very keen to learn and understand the opportunities to work with council on the management aspect of that reserve space, very community driven. So yeah, really exciting to have this sort of table today.
So, we'll have to hang on quickly. Oh, did you want to finish off what you were?
I had. Sorry.
Just so that members of the team, so we are talking about reserves in Cadrona, Albert Town.
Yeah, I had a question about the Albert Town. Just a clarification there. Now, I'm just trying to remember, we do have a part of it, just trying to understand which part of it's still the, for if we have a wastewater issue. There's the old pond area there, was it still kept available for any overflow into that area? That's still there, right?
Yeah, so again, that lot 1 remains for that infrastructure under the property team for the.
Oh, it's still lot 1.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then lot 2 becomes the recreation reserve. And on just a note there as well, on the scheme plan, there's a little bit of area in the top right that's also shaded pink. That may look like it's part of lot 1, but that's actually part of lot 2 where that right of way access is. Even though it's just a little bit confusing with the shading that the developers use there.
Oh, the little bit in the top corner there?
Yeah, that stretch. So the boundary line is the bold black line.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Quentin?
Yeah, thank you. It was just regarding the North Lake one. So it refers to 3 reserves, one being access, one being stormwater, one being access, I think, as well.
Just one access, one services, and one stormwater.
One services, sorry. But then it was unclear to me what lot 1001 and 1002 were on that scheme plan.
Yep. Lot 1000 is the access one, the shaded red.
Yep.
Lot 1001 is the stormwater reserve,
Yeah.
and lot 1002 is the services, which is where the red lines are.
Okay, and so 1001 is quite a substantive area. Will that be managed in such a way that people can use it like some of the others in North Lake? So there's detention basins that are grassed and kids can still kick a soccer ball around and stuff like that. Will that be managed in that way?
Yeah, and there's some landscaping in that stormwater reserve as well, around the edges.
So it will be amenity function as well as a stormwater function. I suppose that there's a risk with, if it's got a stormwater purpose, there's a risk it can be a dam with a fence around it versus an open space as well. And equally, I'm just concerned that those, I don't believe lot 1001, for instance, is actually acknowledged in the resolution. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so that's not what it costs for, that's...
It's not before us, did you say?
No, it's just the lot 1000.
So are they vested under delegation or something?
I believe so, that's...
So is that why, I'm just trying to distinguish why those aren't before us? So...
Yeah, my understanding is that the stormwater and services reserves are under delegation from the property and infrastructure team,
but the recreation reserves are delegated to the community board
recreation
in
and
this
local
case.
purpose reserves. Yeah.
All right, but that's an important distinction, but equally, you know, the importance of those, particularly lot 1001, that it is of a standard that's value to the community is really important. So I don't know, something, and just probably a note to take away is I think we need to, well, I understand the reason that recreation reserves were delegated to the community board. I think we probably need to take an important view of that moving forward, because this is obviously a significant open space as well, but it isn't actually delegated to us in this case. We don't have visibility of the formation standard, we don't have, so it's something we probably consider, and Megan might be able to write this down, considering the delegation moving into next term. That all reserve vesting, not just recreational reserves, are brought forward.
Yeah.
Just through the chief, Simon, I need
No, I'm just saying I can't, I mean, I will make a note of it, but we need to have a look at
Yeah,
it.
of course.
And I'm imagining there will be some
Reason, yeah.
Course 25, the detailed landscape plan, does that mean this comes back to the board with those details? Or?
For the detailed landscape, so that comes at the Parks and Reserves team. And we've got our internal design, so design challenge group that assesses that at that point. And just on that, lot 1001, again, that also has been through an internal design challenge group that looks at the landscaping and things like that. But I think the important thing to remember with 1001, its primary purpose is stormwater detention. If there's additional recreational benefits, that's great. And that's kind of why we don't.
Well, my argument is that...
Yeah, we're going to push forward. That's not before us.
No,
We've made a note
they
there, but
clearly have a dual purpose. I mean,
they do.
you know, 4,500 square metres of land in the middle of an urban
Don't
environment
disagree.
is...
Megan's going to take that away, but we're focused on 1,000. Do you know, the reason we've got this access way is because there's a pathway that sort of doesn't. Is there any reason? I'm not sure the topography there. Is there any reason why this is designed in such a way that it's indirect?
The trail easement on the so the topography is kind of undulating and things, which is why this indicative design takes that sort of meandering.
Yeah, great, okay. I don't think because sometimes we all know that sometimes people just want to get from A to B, and we know what happens if you make the path go that way. People just go A to B. But if there's contours there, that allows that to make sense. And I know that we don't have influence over that, but it just otherwise it ends up you build the pathway and it gets used for a completely different purpose.
Yeah. And the design of that will come back
Oh, really?
into our internal team to assess.
Well, I just
for the
encourage you to
council.
look at that function over form, because we have seen instances where, and it depends how, topography it depends on its use. That people often want to linear get from A to B,
Yeah.
and then won't get used. Who's got any other questions around the Makarora, or the Albert Town, or the Cadrona, or the North Lake vesting?
Sorry, just one on the Makarora one.
Yes.
That, yeah, so it's once again coming back down to who looks after the maintenance. So we're obviously in the budget for the council team to look after that.
What's 3 years for a start?
Yeah.
Oh, 3 years,
Yeah,
that's
3
right.
years,
Sorry,
and then we
the
take it over.
developer
So it's a
one.
classic one with the developer.
Yeah, okay.
Takes
Yeah, sorry.
responsibility, forms it. and
Yeah,
then-
yeah, understood. Thank you.
And there is, for the historic stone chimney, there's a stabilisation plan that they have to present as well, and they have to implement all the recommendations of that to make sure that we're not doing a link with that.
Okay, thanks.
Are we good to move on this? No other comments? So, what we're going to do, because there's 4 of them, we're going to note the context of this report, and we're going to recommend to council that the vesting of the following reserves be approved, and that's the one in Cadrona Valley, the one in Albert Town, the one at Makarora, and the one in North Lake. Who would like to move that? Okay, Linda's moving that, and Barry is seconding that. Good discussion, thank you team. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. Thanks,
Thank
well done,
you.
Dominic. Good to see you. Thank you. Thanks, Gab. Okay, we've got a service easement, Aaron. How are you? Good to see you. So item 4, and that is a service easement at Kitson Lane down in sort of the old Eddy Point area. Just wanted to give us the context there. Oh, I know we've read the report, but yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because it would typically be, if it was road reserve, it would typically be straightforward. But because it's an unusual designation for the access way, it's coming to us.
Correct, that sums up quite well actually. It could well be a road reserve in time.
Yes,
We
yes,
fully
yes.
expect it to be, so
Yeah.
this is really just to assist to get things over the line
Yeah.
and run through the right process.
So we're being pragmatic and a little bit favourable without being pedantic around allowing these services to run through here.
I think there's a common sense approach here, and the reality is local purpose rather than just road reserve.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the reason we're here really, just
Yeah.
the tenure.
And the tenure being.
It's a local purpose road reserve as
Yeah.
opposed to a road reserve.
So when that comes to tenure, were you saying that, why did you raise tenure?
Well, the tenure being a local purpose.
Yes.
Reserve is a different category of reserve compared to just a plain road reserve. A road reserve is very. You have a lot of.
It's not a reserve,
You've
I
got
think is the
services.
point. It's actually a legal road is a,
A legal road is
a legal road is a legal road.
Yeah.
A road reserve is a reserve with a road status, yeah.
Yeah.
Different thing.
Who has some questions around the report that Aaron has put together?
Well, only just to, yeah, I mean, I've heard from a number of residents and stuff who have a perception this should be managed as open space rather than as a reserve, I suppose, just to give some assurity that there isn't any other intended protection of this intended by the status or.
The fact that it's a local purpose road means for all intents and purposes it's there to function as a road. It doesn't convey any, I mean, sure, it could be, it is quite nice in some contexts. It's a gravel road, it's quite wide, large berms, well grassed, that has a certain amenity to it. But realistically it's intended to function as any other road in the district in a practical sense.
So even if a legal form, a physical formation is down there, there can be some fair wide road reserves and amenity value, trees and various things.
If it was formed, the area of land is so wide that there's quite considerable scope, and the road in that location would be particularly wide. I couldn't say how big it would be. I can't really speculate, but
They're not 25 metres or whatever it is.
no. I think the need for roadside parking and things like that would be negligible as well. And envisage it being a large space of actually out.
Okay, is there anything else around that? It's a reasonably procedural side of things. So Lyle is going to move that the content for the report be noted, that we recommend to council that those easements be granted, and we recommend to council that the easements be granted with certain approvals required, subject to certain conditions. And we recommend to council that they grant the easements, that they exercise the minister's consent, and that we give council the authority to approve the final terms and conditions by execution authority. Lyle has moved that. Anyone else have seen that? Barry Wood. Anything else? All those in favour? Aye. Anyone against? So we'll carry that. Yeah, well done. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for coming over and seeing us. Christina. Kia ora, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and Tony's going to join us as well.
I'm just in support.
So, we won't, Christina's I'm not going to get a hard time over this at all. This is good news. We're talking about the disposal of a piece of land we've been talking about for quite a long time. So we want to understand that's the piece of land that is sort of between the primary school, Wānaka Primary School, and Kelly Flat. The slightly sloping piece of land that a lot of the children use for biking or walking up to between the reserve and the school. There is a public excluded element of this, but I'm not sure we really need to talk about the report. You've seen that. It talks about the commercial sensitivity, or it talks about the valuation, which is commercially sensitive. So hopefully we can discuss this without requiring the public to be excluded, but let's see how we get on. Christine, is there anything in addition to the report that you've put together?
Right,
Yep. Thank you. Who's got some questions or comments around this particular disposal? Quentin?
Yeah, thank you. So, well, firstly, just to confirm that the proceeds, the revenue generated, will go to the Wānaka Asset Reserve Fund. So that's what we've called the Skirt Heights Fund. That's sort of somewhat in the discretion of the community board as to where it goes in the future.
Yeah, finance.
Yeah.
So you have confirmed that with finance?
Yeah, no,
yeah, great. Catherine will get that. So we are doing a piece of work on the side to formalise, as you know, or to probably refresh the relationship between the community board and the Wānaka Asset Sales Reserve. And we've always been very clear that this is the last remnants. Is there anything else in the Skirt Heights? Is there any other parcel of land? I don't think there is.
Well, the last one was the full Plantation Road.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about this is the last one, and that particular.
In the Skirt Heights.
Skirt Heights, yeah, there's nothing else.
That's it, I believe. And the other question related to, in a practical sense, I can envisage that the subdivision design might like to have an access at both ends, as in from the King's Drive, you have a through access from King's Drive and then into Ironside Drive rather than a cul-de-sac. At the moment, this has only got legal access to Ironside Drive. Has there been any consideration of access from King's Drive or a land exchange or anything to resolve that point? Because it is recreation reserve, and obviously it's not normal to have a road through a recreation reserve. Is there any opportunity for considering that for the sake of good urban design outcomes?
Maybe careful with maintaining high men. As it's on reserve, it will be quite hard to legally create access from King's Drive into the site. So we can look at further, but the other concern I guess we have is because the school's there, that would create use of a ring road for public to use. So from a developer's point of view, there might not be positive impact. But yeah, something to.
It is going to, the way that it's being designed to be sold is going to put a lot of vehicle movement right outside a primary school, like right at that junction where you get there. So there is a trade-off. I mean, I'm not here talking about school traffic management plans, but there is an implication that that Ironside bit, which is almost exclusively, like there's got 3 houses down one side and then 4 down the other, and we're suddenly going to probably quadruple that, if not more. That will change that dynamic for children walking into school there. Just note that.
I wasn't dictating a certain direction, but I just think we need to be a little bit flexible and want that. And I'm not saying that we put a road over a road reserve with no compensation over a recreation reserve. I'm saying that there might be a land swap. There might be there is more at play here. And but equally, we understand the financial situations that council are in. We're realising this is an asset, this is a freehold piece of council land that is set aside for exactly this purpose, is to sell it, to develop it or sell it. The other option is council could develop it themselves and capitalise that way, but I think there's general acceptance that council aren't in the business, shouldn't be in the business of being property developers, and that the sale is probably the best way forward for capitalising for our community.
Well, I'm interested in you because we've been talking about this, how this could possibly be used for some social housing, etc. So what's your thoughts on the disposal of this piece of land?
Yeah, well, I was involved with we sold the other part of School Heights previously, and then we did look at this bit at that time, and the whole issue of access across the reserve was looked at in quite a bit of detail, and the issues of it, the implications of the conflict with the other schools down there. It is a tight bit of land to work from, but the Ironside Drive was actually a new drive put in for the primary school. I understand we did look at it for a site for social housing, but we've got to balance that up with the value of the land for the community, and that the value the community will get out of the higher return on the land without subdividing it further. Because as reported in the report, if we cut the value down by 25%, that ratepayer, the community need to know that. Noting that we've just recently transferred some very valuable land into the housing trust, so it's a balancing act. And we still will find some land for the Abbeyfield thing, but I do appreciate the implications on the value, and that group had reported to that group about that, and I think their understanding of that. I support what their recommendation is to put this on the market and get the best value we can for our endowment fund and the community to spend on another asset for the next generation. I just have a question about what's the land to the left. Is that primary school land down the bottom there of the diagram below the...
Behind the dental clinic.
Behind the dental clinic?
It is, yeah.
It's not, is it used? Not usually.
It's just a bank.
No, the MOE take it right down to where the school's full path goes down to that boundary fence. That's MOE land.
Okay, right, yeah, I thought, okay, understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my view, and
if this goes on the market and the ownership is transferred to a developer or something commercial, could they come back and reignite a conversation about doing another access way through the reserve? Yeah, so it is then being put, so we don't, by selling it like this, we're not preventing that from happening. We're just saying at the moment we're not going to create any, we're selling the parcel.
You're going to suggest that our new developer might look at those opportunities and options and come to us, and it would be a separate process to consider whether that reserve land is appropriate for that or not.
just further to that, we had a previous discussion, and I don't know if it's still, there's this slither of land down between a couple of houses. I don't know if it's actually part of that house section. I don't know if you can see it. It's down here. There's I understood a while back we were looking at whether that was available. We could be transferred for an access. It's pretty close to the house, but
it's very close to the house.
I don't know. Is that part of that section, or is that
part of that section?
It is part of the
Yeah,
section.
we
Okay,
drove
sorry.
past
I
that.
couldn't recall whether it was a pub. Oh, yeah, okay. Right. And the other question I had was yeah, I don't know, you know, I don't think we don't have to consult on this. This is a cool, but has there been any discussion with the primary school? Any Montessori houses around there?
No.
I'm not sure that there might have been a discussion with the ministry at some stage when they were looking at Wānaka-Upper and stuff.
Oh yeah, what, yeah, I understand back then, I'm just thinking more rigid. No, that's okay. Just so people are aware there's something happening, they'll get it, sure.
Barry?
Just a question regarding the sale process. If it goes to market, is it essentially the highest bidder wins, and then we look at development proposals at a later date, or can the development proposal be part of the sale process?
Good question.
At the moment, we're just leaving open sale with no restriction. Highest value, I imagine. If you wanted to have some say of the development, that might restrict its value. It's not proposed as far as I know. That any say what the development might be would be subject to the district planning provisions and the developer being included.
I think it's now medium density, isn't it? It's quite enabling. There's a very large amount.
Are you tempted to suggest, are you asking an open question, or are you thinking that there could...
Yeah, I just think we only get one crack at this, and somehow that we could look at proposed development plans as part of that sale and purchase process that may give us the opportunity to sway the direction, to give better access.
Well, Mr. Chair, on the access maybe, but I'd be very nervous about putting, we did the other school rights and we went the highest value and didn't put any, and like I say, the control on the development is controlled through the district plan and the rules, the medium density rules anyway. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just a wee bit nervous about what, if we start putting too many conditions on a sale agreement, that we affect the value that we're maybe going to get from it. No, access-wise, maybe there's some discussion here.
So where would when access in and out, that would come part of a, it's not my area of expertise, but a resource consenting sort of time frame that we would look and say that doesn't match the district plan, or isn't?
So it'd be subject to the normal district plan provisions and going through the RM engineering team around access and things, and I imagine that the standard district plan rules would apply. The developer might challenge that, might want to increase the sort of thing. It would be through that planning process, so there'd be no involvement back with the board.
No, I understand. Yeah. And does being in close proximity to a primary school influence, is that contextual for whether it's granted or not? Or
hard to say, sorry, I think it would be subject to the district plan provisions there that says, but I don't have that information. So I mean, the proposal is that it's a straight offer the land on the market that would then be subject to developer plans and under the provisions of the district plan.
So what's on the table? Very stroking his chin as if he wants to say something else.
I guess, given that it's so close to the school, given that there's limited access, given that potentially it could be high density if there was a plan change, I just guess I'd like to see some, rather than just going open market, some guidance or some.
I think it would make it the more obvious restrictions or writing restrictions around what the land can be used for, quite possibly the lower value that will be.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too.
And you have to look at, think about the developer's desire to create amenity within that area, and they'll be looking at points of access and amenity within that small block, and how the configuration works depending on density. And I think to your point, the density is, you can clearly see that there is infill all around the school. So I can't imagine under our plan anyway that there'll be an impediment there.
I think it's more the residents on the other side that, rather than the school, they should be reacting.
Well, if anything, the normal apart from that potential for a secondary access, the normal things that we would consider about public open space, for instance, as an enormous recreation reserve, the access to schooling obviously is very high in both cases, high school and
Two primary schools.
and 2 primary schools. We've got and a childcare centre. We've got the schools to pool, which runs right through the back door. I mean, in terms of the broader urban design, we're really well placed, and the I just don't think we can control the internal design outcomes that well, and have to, unless we want to, dare I say it, go down. We haven't been particularly successful in trying to do that where we have wanted to, and we have compromised values. So
It's almost perfectly set up for those families that choose to not have a vehicle. To be honest,
Exactly.
it's like is there? I mean, otherwise in a supermarket, but it's it's well suited.
And a wonderful opportunity for interface with the reserve, which won't be lost on you.
Okay, so Lyle's wanting to move a lot today, and he is now wanting to move that the contents of this report, the disposal of Ironside Drive, be noted, and that we recommend to council that they grant approval to council officers to commence the disposal of this property. Anyone like to second that? No one's seconding that. Sorry, Chris. All those in favour? No one's against. Well done. Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Chris. So, Christina. Chair's report, final item on our agenda. Thank you again to everyone who engaged with the community and reported that. Has anyone got anything they'd like to, not necessarily to add or to give context to, general community matters or relating to their engagement activity over the last 6 weeks?
I'd like to just add, with regard to the Dibble sculpture on the lakefront, I've had a call from the family to say thank you so much to us for actually facilitating it. And I've had easily a dozen people that I've bumped into who said, oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The positive comments, and as I've said, there's now a really good reason to walk across the bridge at Stony Creek.
Yeah, perfect. I've had emails as well unsolicited saying, by the way, Dibble sculpture is amazing. So it's a real asset. Thank you, Chris. Anything else? Well, again, as it's my report and it's all documented there, I'll move that the content of the report, the chair's report, be noted. Anyone like to second that, Chris? Would you like to second that for me?
Sure, why not?
Chris is seconding that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Great. So, thank you to everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We're 3 minutes past 11 where I will conclude the meeting.